Kale Renaer stood at the center of the Vanguard's Echo briefing room, his rugged features casting shadows in the dim light as the crew of various species gathered around. His reputation as a human from Earth, a notorious Deathworld, had preceded him, and the air was thick with skepticism and curiosity. Commander Vixora, a tall and imposing figure with shimmering blue skin, spoke first. "Mr. Renaer, while your record is impressive, I must admit, I am skeptical about how Tales from Earth can benefit our operations here. This is a high-tech warship, not a wilderness survival camp." Kale nodded, his eyes scanning the room, meeting glances both dubious and intrigued. "Commander, I understand your reservations. But survival isn't just about technology. It's about instincts, adaptability. Let me tell you about the time I faced down a pack of timberwolves in the dead of winter back on Earth." Lieutenant Marine, a lithe and quick-witted Navarine officer, leaned forward, her antennae twitching with interest. "Timberwolves? What are those?" "They're predators, about as high as your chest, with teeth sharp enough to bite through bone," Kale explained, his voice taking on the tone of a seasoned storyteller. "I was alone, no high-tech gear, just my wits and a basic survival kit." The crew shifted, their attention hooking as the human before them painted a picture of Earth's brutal environment. "One night, I was tracking through heavy snow. The cold was so biting, it felt like needles on my skin. Then I heard them, the wolves, their howls echoing through the forest. They had caught my scent and were on the hunt." Commander Vixora frowned. "And how, exactly, did you survive this encounter?" "With respect, Commander, that's where human ingenuity comes in. I remembered reading about wolves' behavior. They're intelligent, strategic, but they rely on intimidation. I made myself appear bigger, kept calm, and used my environment to my advantage. I climbed up a rocky outcrop, keeping the high ground." Kale's hands moved as he spoke, illustrating his solitary stand against nature's assassins. "Then, I used the most powerful weapon I had, fire. I gathered twigs, used my emergency flint, and made a small fire. The flames kept them at bay until sunrise. Wolves are cautious creatures, they won't risk injury by fire. So, I survived till morning, made my way back to civilization." Lieutenant Marine's eyes widened. "You humans face such creatures as a matter of course?" "Not always, but our world teaches us from a young age to respect nature and understand it. To coexist and adapt. These lessons, learned in blood and sweat on Earth, can be applied here. Space, like Earth, is unforgiving. The principles of survival remain the same." A murmur ran through the room. Skepticism mixed with a budding respect. Kale continued, "On Earth, we learn to anticipate, to use whatever we have at our disposal to secure life. Here, aboard the Vanguard's Echo, amidst the stars, it's no different. We must adapt, anticipate, and understand not just our technology, but also our surroundings and potential threats." Commander Vixora stood, her expression thoughtful, her earlier skepticism softening. "Perhaps there is merit in your methods, Mr. Renaer. Continue with your unconventional teachings. Let's see how they meld with our protocols." Kale nodded, a slight smile breaking through his stern demeanor. "Thank you, Commander. You'll find that the most basic human instincts can sharpen even the most advanced alien technologies." As the crew dispersed, Lieutenant Marine approached Kale, her demeanor showing unmistakable signs of fascination. "Mr. Renaer, would you be willing to share more about these Earth tactics? I believe your experiences could provide unique insights into our training programs." "That's the idea, Lieutenant. Survival isn't just about fighting, it's about understanding. Earth may be a death world, but it's a cradle of survivors. And I believe it's time the galaxy learns a little more about what makes humans, well, human." Marine nodded, her voice enthusiastic. "I look forward to learning more, Mr. Renaer. There's much to be said about a species that thrives in adversity. Perhaps your tales will inspire new strategies for the Confederation." As Kale prepared to leave the room, he looked back at the diverse faces of the crew, now slightly less alien and more comrade-like. "On Earth, we have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. in the vast reaches of space, aboard the Vanguard's Echo, I believe that saying is about to take on a whole new meaning. With that, Cale Renaer, the human from Earth, the veteran of countless survival scenarios, began to forge new bonds, his tales of Earth's deadly creatures and harsh landscapes slowly transforming from mere stories into lessons of resilience and ingenuity for the entire galaxy. As the Vanguard's Echo navigated through the star-studded void towards the nebulous borders of the Orion cluster, Cale Renaer found himself more integrated into the crew. His initial tale of Earth's harsh survival had sparked a flame of curiosity among the crew members, especially Lieutenant Marine, who took every chance she could get to delve deeper into human tactics and survival stories. One evening, as the ship hummed softly with the routine checks and low chatter of a comm shift, Marine approached Cale in the communal lounge. "Cale, about your last story, the one with the wolves and the fire. How do you think that translates to handling threats in space?" "We don't have wolves here, but we have other dangers." Cale turned to her, his eyes reflecting a spark of enthusiasm. "It's about using what you know and seeing beyond the immediate. Space may not have wolves, but it has pirates, gravitational anomalies, and hostile entities. The principle of using your environment and keeping your ground, it applies universally." Marine nodded, absorbing every word. "Can you give an example? Perhaps, something that could happen here, on the Echo?" "Sure," Cale began, as around them, the crew's attention gradually shifted towards their conversation, drawn in by the prospect of learning something beyond their standard protocols. "Let's say we encounter a pirate ship hiding in an asteroid field. Standard procedure might be to navigate away or engage with long-range weapons. But if we find ourselves outgunned or outnumbered, then what?" Marine perked up, her tactical mind ticking. "We adapt using your methods?" "Exactly. We use the asteroids, not as obstacles but as shields. Maneuver in close, keep changing positions, make it hard for them to get a clear shot. Meanwhile, we can set up a strategic ambush if they decide to follow. Use smaller, more maneuverable shuttles to flank them or deploy mines. Make them fight on our terms, not theirs." The crew listened, visualizing the scenario. Cale's method was unconventional but resonated with a raw edge of pragmatism that their usual training glossed over. Just then, Commander Vixora entered the lounge. She had overheard the tail end of the conversation and decided to weigh in. "While I appreciate the creativity, Mr. Renaer, we must consider the risks of such tactics. They require precision and can endanger the crew if not executed perfectly." Cale met her gaze, his demeanor respectful yet confident. "Commander, with all due respect, space itself is a risk. Every time we fire up the engines or jump through hyperspace, we're taking a risk. The key is calculated risks. My experience on Earth taught me that sometimes, you have to step into the storm to come out the other side." Vixora considered his words, her expression unreadable. "I propose a simulation. Tomorrow, 0800 hours. We'll run your asteroid field scenario, Mr. Renaer. We'll see how your Deathworld tactics stand up under controlled conditions." The crew murmured in approval, excited by the prospect of a simulation that would break the monotony of their routines. The next morning, the Vanguard's Echo simulation room buzzed with activity. The crew took their stations, the air thick with anticipation and a hint of skepticism from some of the more by-the-book officers. Cale stood beside Marine at the tactical station, his presence commanding and poised. "Remember, it's about adaptability and unpredictability. Keep them guessing, keep moving." As the simulation began, the screens lit up with the image of an asteroid field, and soon, pirate ships emerged from the shadows. The crew of the Echo maneuvered through the asteroids, implementing Cale's tactics. They zigzagged through rocky giants, used the natural debris as cover, and launched countermeasures that were unconventional but effective. The simulation's AI pirates struggled to lock onto the Echo, their usual tactics foiled by the unpredictable maneuvers and strategic placements of mines and decoys by Echo's shuttles. Slowly, the tide turned as the simulated pirate ships took damage and were destroyed or disabled. As the simulation ended, applause broke out among the crew, a mix of excitement and newfound respect filling the room. Commander Vixora, watching the results, turned to Kale, a slight smile breaking her usually stoic demeanor. Mr. Renaer, I must admit, your methods are uniquely effective. You've earned my respect, and perhaps, it's time we incorporate some of your tactics into our training. Kale nodded, a sense of accomplishment visible in his eyes. Thank you, Commander. I believe in preparation and understanding, knowing when to bend the rules and when to break them for survival. Marine beamed at Kale, her respect for the human's ingenuity deepened. Looks like we have a lot more to learn from you, Kale. Earth's tactics could very well shape the future of how we operate. As the crew dispersed, discussions abuzz with possibilities and plans for new training programs, Kale felt a deep sense of pride. His Earth-grown tactics were not just stories now, they were becoming part of something much larger, a new way to think and survive among the stars. As the Vanguard's Echo continued its mission, the training sessions incorporating Kale's Earth-inspired tactics became a staple. The crew's efficiency and morale had markedly improved, but the true test was yet to come. The ship received a distress signal from a nearby mining colony on the fringe of the Orion cluster, under attack by a well-armed band of space pirates. Commander Vixora summoned Kale and Lieutenant Marine to the strategy room. We're the closest ship capable of intercepting the pirates before they can ransack the colony. I want to implement your tactics, Kale. Let's see how they hold up in a real engagement. Kale nodded, his eyes firm with resolve. We'll need to adapt on the fly, Commander. Pirate behavior is unpredictable, but they're not unlike the predators of Earth, opportunistic and fierce, but also cautious when faced with an unknown threat. Marine added, the colony's situated near a dense asteroid belt. Could be advantageous, using your guerrilla tactics. Exactly, Kale agreed. We'll use the belt as cover to close in on the pirates. It's risky, but it could give us the element of surprise we need. As the Vanguard's Echo approached the coordinates, the crew prepared for the operation. Kale briefed the team, his voice calm yet authoritative. Remember, stay alert and flexible. Use the asteroids to your advantage and keep communications tight. Our goal is to protect the colony and neutralize the threat, not to chase glory. The ship slipped silently into the asteroid belt, the hull occasionally grazing against smaller rocks. Sensors picked up multiple pirate ships hovering around the colony, their attention focused on looting rather than on the approaching threat. Initiate cloaking protocol and ready the EMPs, Commander Vixora ordered. Let's give them a demonstration of what we've learned. The Echo moved closer, undetected. On Kale's command, the ship released a series of EMP charges, cleverly masked by a large asteroid. The charges detonated, sending electromagnetic pulses that disabled the pirate ship's shields temporarily. Now, all units, move in. Kale's voice was a beacon, rallying the crew as they maneuvered through the asteroids, launching surprise attacks on the disoriented pirates. The pirates scrambled to respond, their communications and systems hampered by the EMP. One by one, their ships began to falter under the coordinated assault from the Echo's crew, who used the chaotic environment of the asteroid field to their advantage. During the skirmish, a pirate cruiser managed to restore its systems and aimed a barrage of laser fire toward the Echo. Kale, observing from the tactical station, shouted, "Hard to port. Use the larger asteroid as a shield." The Echo veered sharply, just as the asteroid absorbed the impact of the pirates' lasers. Seizing the moment, Marine directed a squad to flank the cruiser, catching the pirates off guard and securing a critical hit that led to the cruiser's surrender. With the pirate threat neutralized, Kale and the team focused on securing the area and assisting the mining colony. Medical teams were dispatched, and repairs began under the watchful presence of the Echo. Commander Vixora, witnessing the successful operation, approached Kale, her earlier reservations now replaced with genuine respect. Your tactics, Mr. Renaer, have not only proven effective but vital in today's victory. You've demonstrated the value of adaptability and courage under fire. Kale smiled slightly, his gaze sweeping over the crew, who were now busy with post-battle procedures. Thank you, Commander. It was a collective effort. Every member of this crew played a part in today's success. We adapted, survived, and conquered, just as we do on Earth. Marine, standing nearby, chimed in, her voice filled with admiration and a bit of relief. It seems there's much more to learn from Earth than just survival stories. Your tactics could redefine space combat for the Confederation. As the crew celebrated their victory, Cale's thoughts drifted to Earth, his home, a planet where every harsh condition, every predator, and every challenge had prepared him for this moment. He realized that these experiences were not just tales of survival but lessons in leadership and innovation. The success of the operation sparked discussions among the higher echelons of the Galactic Confederation. Cale's integration of Earth tactics into space warfare was recognized as not only innovative but necessary for the evolving threats in the galaxy. From that day forward, Cale Renaer was no longer just a veteran from a Deathworld but a pioneer of tactical warfare, whose Earth-grounded strategies had been forged in the stars, tested in battle, and celebrated across the cosmos. His journey continued, not just as a fighter but as a teacher, ready to pass on his knowledge to the next generation of galactic defenders, ensuring that the legacy of Earth's resilience would echo throughout the universe. After the successful operation against the space pirates, the Vanguard's Echo returned to the Galactic Confederation's main outpost, where the news of their victory had spread like wildfire. Cale Renaer, once merely a consultant from a Deathworld, was now a celebrated strategist. His tactics had saved the mining colony and had proven effective against a formidable enemy in real-world conditions. Commander Vixora and Lieutenant Marine escorted Cale to a debriefing room where high-ranking officials of the Confederation awaited. The room was filled with representatives from various planets, all eager to understand how a human's insights had led to such a decisive victory. As they entered, the room quieted, all eyes on the trio. Admiral Zyvrin, the lead official, addressed the room. Today, we are here not just to debrief but to learn and perhaps to integrate new strategies into our fleets. Commander Vixora, please begin the report. Commander Vixora nodded, her voice steady and clear. Thank you, Admiral. The operation at the Orion cluster was a testament to Mr. Renaer's strategic acumen. His approach, using the asteroid belt to our advantage and deploying EMPs to disable the pirates before engaging, was unconventional but highly effective. She gestured to Cale, who stood confidently, though humbly. Cale, if you could share your thoughts on how these tactics could be adapted fleet-wide? Cale looked around, meeting the gazes of various species, each curious and somewhat skeptical. Thank you, Commander. The core of my strategy lies in adaptability and understanding of one's environment, principles that I learned on Earth. In combat, as in nature, the ability to use the terrain, to predict and counteract an opponent's moves, can turn the tide of battle. He paused, ensuring his message was clear. These tactics are not just for small skirmishes but can be scaled up. For instance, understanding gravitational pulls in various sectors can help us better position our fleets, making it harder for enemies to predict our movements. Admiral Zyvrin nodded thoughtfully. And what of training? How do we incorporate these survival instincts into our pilots and crews? That's where simulations and hands-on training come in, Cale responded. We need to create scenarios that challenge our crews, push them to think beyond traditional warfare and use whatever resources they have, just like we did in the asteroid belt. Lieutenant Marine added, I believe implementing training programs that focus on these strategies will not only improve our tactical efficiency but also our crew's confidence in handling unexpected situations. The room buzzed with conversation as officials whispered among themselves, impressed by the proposal. Admiral Zyvrin raised his hand for silence. It appears we have a new frontier in our tactical training. Mr. Renaer, would you be willing to lead this initiative? Cale's eyes widened slightly, honored by the offer. Admiral, I'd be honored. Together, we can build a training program that prepares our fleets not just to fight, but to outthink and outmaneuver any threat they might face. As the meeting concluded, Cale, Vixora, and Marine stepped out into the corridor, a sense of accomplishment among them. Commander Vixora, who had once doubted Cale's methods, now offered him a genuine smile. Cale, I must admit, I was wrong about your tactics. You've brought a new perspective to our operations, and for that, I am grateful. Kale nodded, appreciative of her words. "Thank you, Commander. It's been a journey for all of us." The news of Kale's appointment as the lead of the new tactical training program spread quickly. Over the following weeks, Kale worked closely with Confederation strategists to develop a comprehensive training curriculum, incorporating simulations of various environmental challenges and enemy tactics. Lieutenant Marine, now appointed as his second-in-command for the training program, was instrumental in adapting Earth-based tactics to a variety of space environments. Together, they simulated pirate attacks, asteroid navigations, and even large-scale battles, using the principles Kale had taught. As the first group of cadets graduated from the program, their performance in the simulations exceeded all expectations, proving the effectiveness of the training. Kale watched from the command center, pride swelling in his chest as he saw his trainees adapt and overcome the challenges they faced. Admiral Zyvern visited one of the training sessions, observing the cadets as they maneuvered through a particularly tricky simulation. After the session, he approached Kale, a look of respect in his eyes. "Kale, you've done something remarkable here. You've changed the way we think about warfare and survival. Your Earth may be a death world, but it has given us a warrior who has taught us much about fighting and winning." Kale smiled, looking over at the cadets who were reviewing their performance. "It's all about adaptation, Admiral. We teach them to think like Earthlings, ready for anything, always resourceful. That's the key to survival, whether on Earth or in the stars." As the Galactic Confederation's fleets began incorporating these new tactics, reports of their effectiveness in various confrontations across the galaxy confirmed the success of Kale's program. His integration of Earth's harsh survival lessons into galactic warfare not only saved lives but also shifted the paradigm of tactical training across the universe. Kale Renaer's legacy was now firmly established, not just as a survivor from Earth but as a visionary strategist whose teachings would guide the future of space warfare. His journey from a lone survivor on a death world to a revered leader in the galaxy was a testament to the strength and adaptability of the human spirit, a true embodiment of the HFY, humanity, fuck yeah, ethos.